glad to see Medallia mentioned on one of your slides. It's been my honor and privilege today to have Margery Connor from Chevron. So welcome, Margery.
Thank you.
I'd like you to now just introduce yourself. You have an incredible background and share your own personal stories with the audiences here. And the audiences are practitioners, wannabe entrepreneurs, and also entrepreneurs. So just share your personal story and then weave the Chevron experience.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for the invitation to join you this morning. I'm very excited about this opportunity. So I have been at Chevron 32 years, which is a long time. And I look back on my career, I got my master's in operations research from UC Berkeley. And at that time, there were only a small subset of people in the world that really knew what operations research was, that they were us that were doing it or had degrees in it. I came to Chevron, it's a tremendous number of opportunities to apply operations research, particularly in refining and scheduling. But it was very slow in the early days, right? We had very huge IBM computers. We didn't have a lot of computer power, and not a lot of people knew about, the power of optimization, simulation. So it was very much jumping from one project to the next and educating people on what we can do. Fast forward to today, wow, right? People are calling me and asking me about AI and machine learning applications we have going on at Chevron. So it's been, from the technology perspective, right? Computers are so much faster. Algorithms are so much more efficient that we can do more. Many applications in our business. From exploring for oil, lots of logistics questions about shipping and pipelines and the value chain, running the value chain efficiently. As I mentioned, the refineries, many applications. And, now we have tremendous amounts of data. And, the interesting part is that some people come to me and say, well, Margery, how's this any different than what we've been doing for decades, right? We shoot seismic to understand, sound waves in the subsurface. Then we build a reservoir model. We run the model to be able to predict where the hydrocarbons are and where to drill the wells. How's what you're talking about any different? Then I explain all the sensors and all the opportunities for the Internet of Things, and also combining, we have a very siloed organization, so to be able to combine different aspects of it and really get, a big insight that we wouldn't have gotten if we were looking at parts of the business individually, right? The people that predict where the hydrocarbons are weren't necessarily talking to the people that, were producing it. And so then it's like, wow, if we make these connections, it's been huge value. And initially there was a lot of resistance to these technologies. About 5 years ago, we really focused on one or two areas and applying machine learning technologies and data science. It was almost like an entrepreneurial experience, right? We had a senior executive who basically funded us, and we found the right problems which showed value fairly quickly. So that it wasn't a scenario of, I don't even remember the question. And we very much focused on the value that we were deriving. So, it's been a great experience. We now have a CEO who's very into the digital transformation and completely believes that it's do or die for the company.
Yeah. So here's the whole point, right? Looks like every company out there is going to be a smart company. And there's a lot of buzzwords that's put out there, and we just saw on the slides too. So from a data standpoint, just being in the oil and gas kind of businesses, you must have incredible data sets. And what are some of your pain points that you could be collaborating with entrepreneurs that would help and make that experience for you seamless rather than you trying to do it by yourself? Are there kind of opportunities for entrepreneurs?
Sure. I mean, I think that the good news is, along with these, the digital transformation and the cultural changes, I mean, one of them very much is, as the keynote Veng said, I'm being asked, what startups are you working with, right? In the previous days, it was very much, the companies. And now it's like, well, what startups are you working for? They're reading articles that you need to be engaging in the startups. And I mean, so what are our challenges? I mean, certainly the user experience is a big challenge for us. I mean, especially our team, we're so focused on solving the problem. And, we do ideation sessions, but I'm sure that's another gap, right, is really getting the business people. I mean, most people have been in Chevron a long time, and we really need to get people to think differently and understand opportunities, think of things we wouldn't have thought of otherwise. I mean, another area is just scaling. We're a decentralized organization, and it's a real challenge to be able to connect the different parts. I think the other kind of tip I would give is really just to focus, on an area that we're not competing with an existing solution, right? I mean, that's how we made our success with the data science. There was very sophisticated models around conventional reservoirs, in the subsurface, and now with shale, there was a tremendous amount of data that wasn't making sense. And so for us to focus on that and add value to that has really been helpful to us in explaining to people the value of the new technologies.
I mean, being a big company that Chevron is, you have a lot of people and a lot of very smart people. Do you run into the not invented here syndrome that doesn't let vendors come in? How is that changing? Because that's a cultural change for big companies.
It is a cultural change. And I would say I hear it less and less, not invented here. And I mean, I was in a meeting the other day and somebody was talking about open source software and how, we should it's become much more mainstream at Chevron. Even 5 years ago, the lawyers were like, no, we can't do that, blah, blah, blah. And it's very exciting.
Right. And so for practitioners here, since you've got a vast kind of experiences in data and data analytics, what are some of the lessons kind of learned that you've gone and experienced and failed? Can you bring in some use cases where you've taken something? You just saw a statistic that very few of these projects have ROIs,
okay.
Leave alone the experiences themselves. Can you talk about that?
Sure. I touched on it earlier. It was 5 years ago, and we had a senior exec, and we really focused on quick wins, as we say. I mean, so and absolutely, that was a big focus is on the value, right? And we also were very conservative with the value. We definitely had gotten feedback that you IT people, you always exaggerate the value, and so we would say, and also it's hard to kind of pull out what part the machine learning algorithm contributed to the value. So we would say about 10%. And I mean, the first year, it was a couple $1 million, and then the next year it was tens of millions, and now it's hundreds of millions of dollars that we're doing, and it's all validated. So I would say, focusing on a new problem, not trying to compete with an existing problem, and as well as focusing on the value. I mean, another huge challenge we have right now is retooling our organization and getting people to think differently.
I see. I mean, this whole point is that IT organizations typically are buyers of technology, and the whole point is that at times you get that feedback that we seem to be enamored by technology and not understanding the business case. How do you respond to those?
We actually embed people with the business, the data scientists, so that they're working very closely with the business. I also think that a lot of our petroleum engineers and chemical engineers working in the business with online classes and, just the push, the awareness of these newer technologies that can really push the envelope to the next level of value and understanding. They've learning things on their own. They're calling us and asking us, can you, suggest a book on machine learning, a class on machine learning? Can you bring one of your data scientists into our organization to sit with us?
All right, I have a minute or so left. Are there any questions from the audience? Yes.
Margery, go Bears. I'm also a Berkeley Iowa.
Oh, great.
Yes. What year of Iowa?
I don't know if I'm going to confess that.
She doesn't want to date herself. Yep.
What are you most worried about? The biggest challenge for you, the biggest impediment, the biggest struggle? You mentioned about some people's size and culture and some of that. But ahead of you.
So, it's interesting because so the question was, what worries me the most, right? And the question actually changes, which is a good thing, right? And we can go through the sequence of questions that have worried me, but as we address that one, a new one comes up. Right now, to me, it's the culture. And it's, the company's 140 years old. We've been around for a long time. There's an existing infrastructure that we have to integrate into. And it's a lot of the retooling people. We have an implicit lifetime employment agreement. And that's just not going to be able to continue. And that's going to be a huge shift for people. And I'm not predicting, layoffs, but I'm just saying that that in and of itself is going to be a huge shift.
Implicit lifetime 10-year professorship, which doesn't work.
Yeah.
Well.
All right. With that, our time's up. So I'd like to thank Margery for sharing her thoughts with us today.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.